back to another week of Undergraduate Social Networks, an online course of the University of Maine at Augusta. My name is James Cook, and I'm an assistant professor of social science at the University of Maine at Augusta. Now, this week we're going to be looking at a video interview that I had with Shannon Kinney, a founder and general manager of Dream Local Digital. Now, Dream Local Digital is a firm that's established in Mid-Coast Maine, but that actually works around the country with large corporations, with small businesses, and with nonprofits to achieve instrumental ends. In sociology, we talk about instrumental relationships as relationships that aren't really primarily about emotion. They are engaged in to promote a general goal. For a corporation, that could be profit. Certainly for a small business, that could be a sale. There could also be more indirect goals, such as the establishment of a brand or the establishment of a positive reputation online. For a nonprofit, an instrumental goal might be the achievement of a policy outcome, the success of a social movement, or the promotion of a community of businesses that aren't the organization itself, such as the Lobster Festival, which helps the economic development of Rockland, but is not primarily itself interested in profit. All of these are instrumental goals, desired outcomes, and relationships are built on that basis in order to achieve them. This is very different than the way that you and I, in our daily lives, outside of instrumental activities, use social media, use these social networks online. In this interview, I'd like you to consider the differences between instrumental relations and expressive relations, the emotional commitment that we provide to a spouse, to a friend, to another family member. How does that difference become negotiated when you have individuals using one platform, such as Facebook, for both instrumental and expressive ends? Without further ado, let's consider these issues in the interview with Shannon Kinney. And across the table from me is Shannon Kinney with Dream Local Digital.
Yes.
And how many years have you been in the social media business, as you would term it?
7 years in social media, Dream Local for 3. Okay. We started the company in 2009.
Wow. And was it as large as it is now when you got started, or
No.
did it start on a shoestring?
We started with 2 people and spent our first 2.5 years over my garage, in an office space over my garage. And now we were up to 21 and counting.
21 in a town the size of Rockland is
Yes.
a significant industry.
Yes. We're not all in Rockland, but there's a lot of us here.
And you're not just doing business for people in Rockland or even just in Mid-Coast Maine, is that right?
That's right. We serve businesses nationwide, and actually we met this weekend with some in Canada.
Really?
So, U.S. and Canada based.
And I understand you were in Las Vegas recently.
I was speaking at a conference on social media in Las Vegas and the week before in Atlanta.
So it's not an exaggeration to refer to you as really a nationally recognized expert on social media?
No.
Okay.
That's what I do.
So when you're working with businesses, how do you see businesses best being able to leverage social media in order to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish outside of the internet?
Well, being found is the first thing businesses need, both on search engines and on social media. Predominantly, people are using the web to find what they're looking for in today's busy culture, and so our first primary thing is to make sure that they're found and well represented. And they also have a great opportunity to engage people with their brand messages, with offers, with coupons, with deals. But the most powerful way businesses can use social media is to have conversations with customers and potential customers, to share photos or videos or engage people in the brand. Dell is a great example of a company that also uses it for customer service. They monitor the web every day, and there's an average of 25,000 mentions of Dell or computers on any given day, and they have anywhere between 7,000 and 11,000 people trained to respond on social media.
7,000 and 11,000. So if I'm doing the math correctly, that's like one person for every 2.5 mentions?
Those are mentions that they're listening to. Then they, of course, also do a lot of outreach as well.
So these are the ones that they find. So those people must be listening to a lot of traffic beyond that in order to filter that down and find just the few that are really important.
Yes, they are. And the reason I studied Dell, because they're an excellent case study in general, but also because I was once at a conference and my laptop battery died. And I was in the front row, and I'm really excited because Google's coming out on stage. All the people who follow me on Twitter couldn't wait to hear what Google was going to announce. Right. And my laptop battery started to die, and it really was frustrating. So I posted on Twitter with the hashtag of the conference I was at, you know, I so desperately need a netbook or a laptop with smaller battery. What do you have, brands or reviews? And a lot of people responded and told me where to charge the battery. They told me about different computers that they use. But one of the people who responded was Dell. Jeffrey at Dell, which is a customer service representative. He saw need, netbook, laptop, brand, and reviews. He saw 5 what they call pain words. And he responded and asked me what I was using it for. I told him, and he sent me 2 laptops links. And we've since purchased, I think, 6 machines from Jeffrey at Dell.
So Jeffrey at Dell, with that one connection, he might have been spending a lot of time sifting through and finding all this kind of chaff, but then he finds this little grain of wheat that says, I have a need. He identifies the need. You've bought 6
We've
machines.
bought 6 since then.
Which is quite a chunk of change.
Yeah, so, and it's not all the machines we've bought, but it's the majority of the business we do is with Dell now.
So he's been able to convert that.
Yeah.
And I noticed you don't recall him as somebody or other from Dell.
His handle is Jeffrey at Dell, is how to find him on Twitter. And what's most interesting is I sort of probed that more, is he really is in customer service. He's not in sales. So of course, if I had said something about Dell's name or negative, it would have been somebody on his team. But he's facilitated all the transactions we've done as well.
So it sounds like at least there's a feeling of some kind of connection that was established that day.
That's right.
That was converted into
They listened to what I needed and gave me ideas. I didn't have to go to their website and try to figure out how to translate their product to what I need. And that was a winner for us. And so we probed more deeply, and they have 11,000 people who are certified to respond. Right. They have about 7,000 who do it on a regular basis. They're a 24/7 operation with social at Dell.
And so now you're turning around and you're offering that kind of model to some business that might not be Dell.
Right, on a much smaller scale.
On a much smaller scale. How do you do that on a smaller scale?
Well, we use people. Dell uses a system that scans and prioritizes and puts messages into a queue for those people who do it. We use people in certain tools to monitor the web, to monitor social channels, to monitor search engines for our clients. And then we are either on our own or in collaboration with the client responding to people every day for hundreds of businesses.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a lot of fun.
When you do that, do you respond as Shannon Kinney with Dream Local Digital, or are you responding?
No, we are the client.
You are the client.
We are the client. And there's been some controversy in the industry about how important it is for brands to be authentic. And many people frown on having agencies represent people in that sort of way. Right. And our philosophy at Dream Local is we get very involved with our clients, and we do a strategy for them, meet with them regularly. We learn all about their products. We have people here at our office that can tell you the right kind of shingle for your house, the right kind of paint for your house, depending on, we get very in depth with our clients. So we feel like we can do a credible job of speaking on behalf of the company. Many small businesses aren't on social at all. And so we help augment that. And then we have other ones where it's a collaboration, like the local Chamber of Commerce in this town, for example. They do a lot of the day-to-day posts. We're the ones going out and helping find visitors to the area and bringing them to the pages. Right. So that's a good partnership, other than us writing the content.
If I hear what you're saying accurately, maybe you can tell me if I am hearing it accurately. It sounds like you're spending time with your clients and you're listening to their voice. You're responding to them and saying, am I hearing your voice well? Right. You're modeling the voice so that then you can use the voice when you're speaking to other people.
That's great.
So well that other people won't know that they're not actually dealing with that same voice.
That's exactly what we do. There's a great observation. We couple that with reviewing best practices in the industry and their competitive landscape, and then in some cases we're coaching them on the voice. But there's an agreement between the client and us prior to us using it, that we're on the right page, and we have regular meetings and reports to them about what's working and what's not. And we have one client, for example, that used to heavily advertise 24/7 service with a particular phone number. Well, we got a lot of complaints that wasn't really how it was working, so we've actually changed the brand messaging. It's not that that client isn't responsive, it's just they shouldn't say 24/7 if that's not really what's going on.
Sure.
And so we are able to find out what's happening in the community, what is being said. Because in the traditional offline world, one person will tell 10 people if they have a good or bad experience, but the business never knows. Online, we know. And particularly people who are heavy users of social media, instead of telling 10 people, they're telling hundreds of people. And so it's important for businesses to not only be found, but be really in control of their brand messages and know what's being said, where, and responding. And if they're not able to do it, we can help them do that.
Going back a little bit, when I heard you talk about best practices, it sounds like that's almost a separate strategy where there may be some people who are interested in actually being their own voice and using their own voice, but may not be using that voice as well as they could.
Yes.
So what does a best practice look like, and what does a less than best practice look like, typically?
A great example is I met with a car dealer, a very large car dealer yesterday, who updates their Facebook page regularly. They have one. They update it regularly. They have about 750 fans, which is a decent amount. In the US, the average business page is between 800 and 1,000 fans. So by doing it himself, he's got 750. He's not doing bad.
That's great.
But surprisingly enough, considering he's a car dealer, his posts, he posts regularly, none of them ever ask for a sale. They're all, oh, here's Jane and her new car today. Great posts. We have a lot of people that we need to instruct to go in that direction. But he never said, here's what you can buy here. Here's how to use us. Sale going on. He never in any way tried to communicate that. So a best practice really has a mix of listening to what people are saying, of talking about what your products and services are in a way that you're responding to somebody's needs, like Dell did with me, and then a little bit of what is it like. What are you like as a brand? What are you like as a company? What is your team like? Today on the Dream Local page, they posted a photo of our coffee machine, which seems silly. We got a bunch of people commenting on it because it's like, oh, this is the fun thing going on. It's cold here today.
And that's not direct selling, right?
Right. That's just more like a little flavor of what things are like here. So what we really look for is a mix, a really nice mix across the board of different types of messages and things that make the brand feel real. Can't be too stiff unless, of course, you're a bank, maybe.
Right. You can't be a constant sell.
Right.
You can't only show pictures of your dog. There's something in between.
Something in the middle.
So had that dealer had any idea about whether his strategy was successful or not? Or had he just been giving it a shot and then some people sometimes come into the lot and who knows whether?
Right. He was just posting what he felt like posting.
Okay.
And didn't have a plan or a strategy. That's the other thing that we work with with our clients, or we've coached thousands of businesses in workshops to do things themselves. I think we're up, as of this month, we're at 3,700. By the end of October, we'll be at 4,000 or 5,000 businesses that we coach them and give them several ideas on how to do this on their own, if they choose not to use us. But for him, it was walking him through how to develop a plan. You don't just wake up at 6 in the morning and type something on Facebook and expect that it's going to grow your business. You have to look at your marketing plan, what's happening in your business, or for a nonprofit, same thing. What's your calendar like? And then create a solid plan of what messages should be delivered when to what people. The exciting thing is that social media and online marketing gives businesses so much more power than traditional advertising ever did. I spent 20 years in the newspaper industry. I've sold a lot of ads. But this isn't advertising, it's marketing. It's a two-way conversation. It allows you the power of zeroing in on a niche audience or a powerful message in ways that a flat box ad or even a television ad can't convey. But most businesses don't understand how to do that.
Is that because they're used to the whole slap up an ad kind of approach?
Yeah, I'm having a 20% off sale this weekend. We had one client who it was like a hair salon spa type experience. And we asked her who her target audience was. And she said women ages 18 to 60. I'm sorry, that's not a target audience. So we ended up spending 45 minutes with her to help her realize that the answer to that question came out of, I said, what's your most profitable product? What's your most profitable service? If you could sell 10 times more of anything in this place, what would it be? Well, it was Medi-Spa services, Botox, Juvederm, that sort of thing. Our target audience is, 35 to 50 women who are affluent and interested, really interested in how they look, much more than they are interested in being relaxed, which is what you would assume the spa. So once we understand that, we can still speak to women 18 to 60, but we're going to zero in a lot harder on that niche range and try to turn that particular dial in their business.
It sounds like what I just heard you say was that to express this in social network terms, you can think about connections coming in as well as connections going out.
That's right.
In the old model, you wouldn't be able to see connections coming in, so you just had to spew things out.
Right.
But if you can take a look at those ties that are coming in and you can characterize who is coming in,
right.
When are they coming in, what 3 different ways can we characterize them so we can narrow that target down, then we know who we're talking to, then we can think a little bit more carefully about what we're going to be saying.
Right, and maximize the value of that. I mean, you've talked a lot about understanding the networks that you've built and what is the value of those networks. And in your personal life, they may be people you can learn a lot from. They may be people that have the shared interests with you, or family. My parents are all social media people because they want to know what's going on with me. My father found out I was having a baby because my tweet stopped, and he called the house, no answer. He goes to the hospital, there I am. So,
he knew the pattern.
He knew the pattern. So personally, that's that way. On a business sense, it's understanding. You want a network, and you're looking for a large fan base or follower base, but really it's about learning how to recognize the most powerful channels in those networks to accomplish what can be accomplished for your business.
So what are those networks? And what are they useful for? What are the most popular social media networks? And what are you going to try to use the different ones for? Do you send the same message out on Twitter that you would on Facebook, that you would on Pinterest, that you would on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. No. So first of all, I'll walk you through some of the most popular ones, and then we'll talk about the different ways to use them. Facebook is the one we deal with primarily because it's by far the largest. Facebook has 955 million active users, and those are defined as people who log in at least once per week. Half of those people log in every day. The amount of people that log in every day is more than twice bigger than the next biggest social network. Okay. So Facebook is by far the largest in North America and throughout many countries. It's not the largest in other countries. China, for example, bans Facebook, and there it's QQ and RenRen, but primarily in North America, Facebook is by far the largest. And it's a powerful way to engage brands, get your brands, engage people. It's very shareable. Some of the largest brands on Facebook are Starbucks, Victoria's Secret, because the images are great, Coca-Cola are some of the big ones there. But small businesses are making a lot of money on Facebook, and we work with a lot that are doing very well on Facebook. In the US, about 80% of businesses have either started or planning on in 2012 using Facebook for their businesses. The next one in terms of size that we work with a lot is Twitter. Twitter is a microblogging platform where your status update has to be 140 characters or less, so it's like a short and sweet situation. There are about 500,000 users of Twitter, but only about half of them are what we would call real accounts, authentic accounts. So we really characterize them somewhere in the 250,000 range. But Twitter is a very powerful tool if you're a writer, a journalist, if you have a blog, because about 40% of all the tweets contain a link to something else. People aren't really on Twitter talking, a lot about what they have for lunch. I mean, it's on all social networks, but Twitter is a powerful tool for listening and learning what you should be reading. For me, it completely replaced RSS. I don't use that at all anymore.
That sounds like a headline more than anything else.
Yeah.
Here's the top
ways to market your business online.
Click this.
Mm-hmm. And so the other difference between Twitter and Facebook is a environment where the only people who can see your messages are your fans and their friends. Mm-hmm. So it's like a second degree network situation. Unless of course you're a person like I have public updates because people subscribe to my updates. On Twitter, nearly everything is public. So it is a really powerful search engine. And I've had a lot of people skeptical about whether Twitter would work for them. And I always say, go to that search box, type in something you're passionate about, and I guarantee you will find something. Sure. And videos, articles, resources, tips. And Twitter was how people communicated during the devastating events in Haiti. It's how people polarized and mobilized themselves in Egypt. Globally, it's a powerful, short way to communicate. For businesses, we do a lot of listening. We do a lot of outreach in terms of growing our audience base and getting traffic to blogs with Twitter.
Do you ever find any of your clients are a little scared by the danger of this public presence? I'm thinking of this one website called Politwoops. Are you familiar with them? Mm-hmm. That track politicians and all the tweets that they posted and then thought twice about.
Maybe I shouldn't have. Yeah. A lot of our clients actually, we have one who's in the hospitality industry in another area in Maine, who she is quick draw on responding to reviews, and she has a little temper about it because she's passionate about what she does and she works very hard. So she'll send us stuff and we take care of all of it because sometimes it's needs a little bit toning down.
Very intense person?
Yeah.
Intensity really shows up in
intense.
140 characters.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So probably the next one that we work with a lot is LinkedIn.
Yep.
LinkedIn is a business professional network that a lot of people, it's based on your resume and your background, who you know, what you know. And those are really the big stressors on LinkedIn. There's 175,000 users on LinkedIn now in 120 countries. But the powerful thing about LinkedIn is 50% of the people on LinkedIn are the decision maker at their company. So if our client is in a business-to-business situation, or if it's a nonprofit trying to work with businesses, we spend a lot of time there. We were recently hired by our local chamber who was really trying to search for a new executive director. And they had used traditional media and only garnered a few candidates. And we did a heavy campaign on several websites, but primarily LinkedIn, and found 85 candidates for them who wanted to move here and run that chamber, and they just hired somebody today.
So these were not 85 people in the Mid-Coast Maine region. Right. These were 85 people who wanted to move here. Presumably then they were geographically scattered.
They were scattered. There were people in the Mid-Coast who don't use traditional media and didn't see the original ads. So we did increase the Mid-Coast range, but we brought them people from all over the United States that were interested in being here.
So now, using the LinkedIn network and searching across the network for that information, it's my impression that most people that are using LinkedIn won't be saying something like, I hate living in California. That's a kind of too personal a statement.
Right.
What will they be saying that you will find as a piece of information that's out there in the network that you'll then bring in and say, we need to connect with that person, that person?
Well, LinkedIn, the first primary way you're connecting to people is not on a status update, but on who you are and what you know and who you know. So either we're peers and have worked in the same industry and we want to connect so we can share information, or we've worked together at a previous company, or I want to connect with you because I may want to try to sell you something at some point. But LinkedIn does have status updates. It's just not the primary way people are growing their network. They're growing it by finding people with a specific title, a specific company. I've recently, just grown. I think I just got 20 new people today because they just saw me speak in Vegas. So then they want to connect so that they can continue the dialogue, because my status updates on LinkedIn are going to be primarily, a blog post that we do or articles that they should read. something that, you know, is professional. I definitely don't talk about anything I'm doing personally on LinkedIn, other than, you know, a blog post that I wrote.
Right.
But LinkedIn is not a place to be talking about my personal life, whereas Facebook and Twitter are much more so that way. Although most would argue I don't have a personal life. That's it. LinkedIn isn't where I'd talk about it if I did.
Sure, that's fine.
Another one I want to mention is Google Plus, which is Google's answer to Facebook, and it functions very much like Facebook, but is considerably smaller. It's about 130 million users. And it's a lot of geeks like me talking about geeky things. But the reason Google Plus matters for businesses is all content that's put into into Google Plus, is directly into the Google database. And it also links to their local listing on Google. So it helps them be shown much better in the search engine. And Google has 88% or so market share in the US. So we care a lot about how our clients show up in Google. So for many of our clients, Google Plus is important. And you asked if we post the same things. We will use Facebook and Google Plus similar strategies with those two, because they really are very much the same in terms of the format, how much text you can use, how video or photos are presented is very similar. And so we do tend to mirror those two strategies with those two networks.
Google Plus is even a little bit more friendly with the long form. It's less liable to shove your important third paragraph that you think is really crucial under more and make that invisible.
But a lot of people don't adopt it because of that, because there's too much scrolling. So
it's attracting a different person.
Yeah.
Somebody who, it sounds almost like with LinkedIn, it's going to attract a smaller group, but the group that it's going to attract are going to be some high-powered people who are thinking in the long form. Right.
People who use, power users of Twitter or Google Plus are what we would call influencers. They're the kind of person who, if they like something you're doing, or if they don't, they're going to spread it really fast. So if Alec Baldwin does something stupid on a plane, it's going to go crazy all over Twitter or Google Plus, because they are interested in spreading and broadcasting information more. Whereas Facebook, that happens, but it's a little bit more social or business. It's a larger community.
Sure.
Right, so it's not as crazy.
You know, this is really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of all the different kinds of social media that there are.
Right.
We've both seen, and I'll probably put up on the screen at this point, a famous chart which is showing all the different social media web. And there you could, if you wanted to put it on one screen, you'd almost have to do it pixel by pixel for all the different forms of social media. Some of them successful and some of them least successful. But something I heard you say a few minutes ago was the word growth, and then you used the word grown, and then you used the word growing. Right. Growth sounds really important in that context. What are some of the growing forms of social media, maybe that we haven't heard of yet, or maybe that we pay a little attention to and discount, that you think are going to be eclipsing some of the older forms? Okay. Two of the fastest growing ones right now are both very visual. One is Pinterest. It reached 10 million users faster than any other website ever. And I don't mean social network, I mean website. They got 10 million registered users faster than anyone else. Wow. And it was in beta. You had to know someone who was in to get in, which is how most of them do start. Pinterest is like a virtual visual pinboard where you can save an image which can be connected to an article, to a specific category. Like Twitter, it's very public. So anything that's posted on there is very viral, and we use it a lot for retail, hospitality, any photographers, art, anybody who has a very visual product. About 86% of the users of Pinterest are women, and they get really addicted to it. Like, it's like the new soap operas is Pinterest. One of the other ones that's growing very quickly is Instagram. And Instagram is a photo-based network where you take photos and share them with your friends or colleagues or whomever you have in your network. And it became very popular with iPhone users. And then just when they released the Android version a few months ago, they were purchased by Facebook for, I think, 1.2 or 1.5 billion. And now we're finding that businesses are really able to leverage Instagram a lot as well. Like, it's just starting to get to critical mass enough that we can start, for
clothing designers and art galleries really start leveraging Instagram. It's been exciting how it's taken and made people, your average person with a little phone, feel creative about their photography. So you don't just see people of like pictures of people standing. You see people taking pictures of flowers and sunsets, and it has all these effects that's really fun. So that was growing a lot.
That's what I think of when I think of Instagram, is my cousin's brother who's going to Patagonia or something for a year and has challenged themselves to take 30 pictures in 30 days, and then they apply all these filters to make a violet look like it's orange, or to make it look like it's a Polaroid in 1960 or whatever.
Yeah.
So you lost me a little bit when you said there are all these brands that are becoming interested in it, because when I think of Instagram, I just think of people saying, "Oh, look at the cool
photos." Yeah.
How does a business use Instagram?
Well, a clothing shop, for example, could be taking some shots of people in the store, of the window displays of the clothing from a less traditional angle, because it picks up people's interests in the visual. It's eye candy. And so for that reason it works well. It's trending right now in terms of usage younger. There's a lot of younger people flocking to Instagram as a way to express themselves, and also because their parents are on Facebook now and aren't necessarily on Twitter or Instagram, so it's starting to get really sticky with younger people. I'm finding that it's funny for me, I try to think I'm hip and all, but I'm over 40, let's just say. And I find that I watch trends where I can see my friends who are 20, all flocking rapidly to Instagram, and we're in Maine, so I don't consider us trendsetters, but you can see that even no matter where you are, it's become really sticky with younger people. So businesses, particularly retail and hospitality, in our business, are starting to talk to us a lot, or we're talking to them about Pinterest and Instagram for that reason.
Are they trying to set up a lifetime relationship with someone right at the beginning?
Yeah, that makes them hip and visually hip is really what we look for. And if our client isn't in the space where visually hip is something that they can be, then that's not really the avenue we use for them. But it's growing pretty quickly.
Sure. So something else I heard you talk about, going back to when you were talking about LinkedIn, was that you were saying, maybe I'm going to want to connect with you to sell you something.
Right.
And that's a professional relationship.
Right.
And on LinkedIn, that's kind of what it's about, is I'm setting myself out here. Maybe I'm not looking for a job right now, but I'm looking to form a connection. Maybe I am trying to find a job, and I'll be doing that in 6 months, and I want to start building connections. Maybe I should be doing it longer out than 6 months. But that's the kind of thing that's acceptable on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the social network that's what it's for. And it's totally appropriate to try to sell something. Now there's obviously etiquette on all of the social networks about how you approach that kind of conversation, but LinkedIn is really the place that's appropriate as long as you are authentic. In fact, LinkedIn caps you out at 5,000 people in your network because it thinks that that's not really possible. It is possible to maintain really large ones. I think mine's 2,500 or so, and I am in conversations with a lot of them a lot of the time. And it's okay to be business driven. But the other thing that's important on LinkedIn, in all the social networks, but particularly on LinkedIn, is if you give back, then you have a lot more leeway. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn answering people's questions. How do I do this with my business? Or I'm trying, I got one this morning that was, I'm trying the new Facebook offers and I can't get it to work. And people choose LinkedIn as the avenue to send that to me for a reason, because they're saying, well, it's business related and I'm not going to harass you somewhere else. And so I try to respond to as many of them as I can. And a lot of them are also, I want to meet this person. So I'm trying, I got a message today from somebody who wants to pitch Google. And I have contacts on the VC side at Google, and so they write me hoping that I'll make the introduction for them. And about 70 or 80% of the time, I would. But if I'm going to, as long as it doesn't damage my relationship with the recipient of whomever I'm sending it. So. And
that's somewhat understood in LinkedIn. This is an instrumental connection we're making. I'm not wanting to take you out to tea. I don't want to know about your cat, which is kind of an expressive thing. I don't need to know how much you enjoyed the last sunset. Over on Facebook, well, there's loads of that.
And there's a mix of it.
And it's a mix of it. You never know what you're going to get, and sometimes people get uncomfortable with that, people who overshare even, and some people withdraw from that, but that's really expressive. It's about sharing some idea about who you are or who the set of your friends are. So you have this one social network that's instrumental, this other one that's built on expressiveness. Twitter does a little bit of both. It does everything in between.
Depending on who you follow.
Depending on who you follow, who you run into, or what you search for in the whole pile. So when you're working in social media and you're trying to generate contacts, do you often find that you're mining the expressive networks for instrumental purposes? And how does that make people feel? Can you rub people the wrong way? Can converting an expressive social tie in order to do something instrumental backfire?
Yes, it's a good question, and we've been talking about this for a while, and I think Facebook is the one network where it is as blurry on those, and it's important that if you're going to try to blur those lines, that you think hard about your audience, the appropriateness of the message, whether it's personal or business, the appropriateness of the message, and not over leveraging the network. So for example, let's say we're working on behalf of a financial planner, and the healthcare, insurance, and financial planning industries really limit anything other than instrumental conversation. A lot of them are not even allowed to have Facebook pages, and it's very tight. So a lot of the outreach that we do on behalf of clients like that are more private. So we're using things like messages, maybe perhaps Facebook messages versus wall posts to try to connect with people. And you have to be careful about how you do that so that it doesn't offend people. Like I received one today that instead of taking the time to write people individually, they sent it to 150 of us that they were launching a new book. Well, I'm really excited that they've launched a new book. But when that message goes to 150 people, and then you start getting all the replies. One person replies, "Oh, congratulations on your new book." Then I get it, and then I'm getting message after message after message. I don't even care about their new book. I'm leaving that conversation as quickly as possible.
Is that because you're introduced to this other piece of meta information that you are a cog in their machine?
No, my Facebook is blowing up because every time somebody replies, it's going to all of them. So you just
want to shove that off to the side.
Right. So when we do it, we're doing it on a much more individual basis and tailoring the message. It might even be that we're copying and pasting the same message, but we're trying to have a smaller conversation so that we're not offending people. I call it the cocktail party conversationalist thing. If you wouldn't say it in a room with like 40 people, if it's a conversation that you take somebody aside and have in private, then that's how you should do it. And you can use Facebook to facilitate that. But if you would say it to all 40 the same way, and you feel okay about how that would go, then either your wall or a group message is totally appropriate. When you look at the infrastructure of all the different social networks, Facebook has the most advanced controls over privacy and your account than any of them. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm worried about my privacy." Well, Twitter, you're either open or closed. That's it. Pinterest, you have no choice. Quora, LinkedIn, no choice. But Facebook tries hard to give people the power to decide how much of Shannon they want to see. Do you only want to see my most important posts or some of my posts? And for me as a publisher of my content, my life content, I can decide right down to the photo who sees what. And a lot of people need to be more cognizant of how those tools work, because it does give you power to not have it all be so blurry, but a lot of people don't use them.
So I would like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Shannon Kinney, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks.